Welcome back, prop builders. I have another tutorial here for you guys. I'm making these skyscrapers for my Giant Man figure, as well as for the Godzilla figures, and as well to add detail in the background of your toy photography. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and let's just get right into it. So here we are on the first step, and what you guys see in front of you is some dry floral craft foam. This stuff is used for making arrangement of fake flowers, and they stick them in there and they put them in vases. This is really, it's not the most sturdiest foam. It does chip away a lot, so we're going to make this more sturdy. But this is going to be the base of our skyscraper. And so the first step is we're going to actually, I'm going to lay this down so you guys have a better view. I'm going to actually readjust the camera so you guys can get a better view of what I'm doing next. Alright, so here we are a little bit closer now that I adjusted the camera. We're going to actually cover this all in PVA glue. Like I said before, this is not the most sturdiest foam. It does tend to chip and weather. So we're actually going to cover this in PVA glue. So all I do is I don't even water it down because this foam is really porous. You know, it just absorbs all the water if you do water this down. So I'm just going to put a generous amount of PVA glue. And you're going to want to do this to all sides. So basically I'm just going to get a good amount on there. Alright, that's good for right now. And a little tip for you guys, I do end up wasting a lot of like cheap brushes and going through a lot of them when I do coat my projects either in PVA glue or Mod Podge. So I found out a really good tip for you guys. I bought this brush where they have the kitchen appliances. It's a silicone brush that they use for basting and cooking, and this actually is really good with PVA glue. It actually peels right off after it's done drying on the brush, so you don't have to keep buying cheap brushes to coat your projects with either Elmer's glue or Mod Podge. So you could save a lot of money that way. And I just want to demonstrate the silicone brush for you guys. It works just as well as a regular brush. You get to even coating. Just go over this. As you guys can see, it's doing a fairly well job of coating it. Just as good as a cheap chip brush that you could buy at the dollar store, or you know, the packs of cheap brushes that you tend to use on projects to coat them with glue. Because as you know, if you coat something with glue or Mod Podge and your brush is pretty much ruined at the end of it, because even though you wash it thoroughly, you end up having your brush harden up and stiffen up on you. This will actually save you a lot of money because, like I said, the glue would dry and then you could just literally peel it off the silicone. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the Elmer's glue on all sides and let it dry, and we'll come back to the next step. Alright, now that I have it fully coated with the Elmer's glue, I just want to show you guys that it is tough now. It's not flaking off. I did have a little bit of trouble on the corners. If you apply too much glue, it is tacky enough. If you run your brush over it, it will cause a little bit of damage to it. So it's not a big deal, so it's going to get covered up anyways. So the next step is to actually apply black paint to this. I would say a black wash, that's what I usually use, but since we did use Elmer's glue, it does dissolve with water, so I don't want to make it all clumpy or have any problems later down in the line, so we are just going to use straight black paint. You can water it a little bit down, but like I said, there might be a little bit of issue since Elmer's glue can be dissolved by water. So I'm just going to go ahead and start applying my black base to this. Let's just do a little bit on camera, and then I'll finish painting this off camera so I don't get black paint everywhere, especially on my filming area. And having that Elmer's glue have that hard layer is actually making the paint go on a lot easier. If you didn't have the layer of Elmer's glue on here, the paint would just get absorbed with the foam, because like I said, it's really porous. It really likes to flake a lot. So having that Elmer's glue toughens it up and also makes it easier to paint. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my black paint to the rest of this. I just want to show you guys it's just simple black paint. There's no wash to it or no dry brushing, no special techniques. It's just applying the black paint to this. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this, and then we'll come back to the next step. Alright, so here we are. I have it all painted up with the black paint. So we're pretty much done with this step right here. We're going to move on to the next step. And the next step is we're going to do the outside of it to make sure it looks like it has windows. And so what I like using for this is they use this, I don't know if you guys can see this with the lights on in the background being so bright, but it's a mesh that they use for cross stitching. But we have to prep this so before we paint it, because if we just paint it straight up out of package, then it's just going to chip away the paint. So what I like doing is taking a 220 grit sandpaper. You can sand this by hand, but I do have this sander right here, so I'm going to go ahead and use my hand sander off camera because it is really noisy. I'm going to just sand the whole thing. And like I said, I like using 220 grit. It's worked for me. It doesn't, you know, gouge the plastic or anything. It's a nice nice sandpaper to use on this project. So I'm going to go ahead and sand this, and we're going to come back and do our measurements. Alright, now that I have it all sanded down, I just want to give you guys a quick tip. If you feel your hand across it, it should feel like almost like a suede kind of feeling to it. It should be soft and light. Before you sand it, it's nice and smooth, so you can run your hand across to see if there's any smooth sides, to see if you miss any parts that you miss sanding. So you could go ahead and sand that down before you start painting this. But before we do start painting it, we're actually going to cut out the panels and make it a little bit easier on ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and get our centerpiece for the building. And I'm going to go ahead and put it at the side of the mesh. And I did put a piece of cardstock back here, some blue cardstock, so you guys can see how the mesh looks. Since I noticed in my last clip, the white backdrop was really hiding the mesh from you guys. So I just want to put that back there so you guys can see the measurements. We're going to take our Sharpie and we're just going to go ahead and measure each corner of this, so we could cut this out off camera. You're going to want to do this for each of the sides. And I already measured this so I could give you guys the measurements instead of guessing how many squares and all that kind of stuff off camera. For the front side, it's going to be 3.5 inches from this point to this point, from the bottom point. So basically the width, and then the length from bottom to top is going to be 7 3/4 inches tall. So that's going to be the first panel. You're going to cut out 2 of those, and then for this side right here, it's going to be, for the base of it, it's going to be 2.5 inches, and then the length is going to be the same as the front panel, which is 7 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that out. This one sheet will cover this whole brick basically, or the whole center of the building. So you should get enough pieces out of this to cover the front, the back, and the both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that out with my Sharpie and cut it off camera. If you did purchase the hot knife that I used in my video where I showcased it of how you could cut foam with the hot knife, it will cut through this like butter, and you won't have any of those little lines that if you do cut out with the X-Acto knife, you get little ridges, and you're gonna have to sand those down. If you use the hot knife, you're gonna cut that step out completely. Just letting you guys know that. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off camera, and we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, so here we are. I cut out all the pieces already, make sure my measurements were nice and straight. And I just want to show you guys before I actually show you what I'm going to spray paint this with. Basically, it gives you a rough look of what you're going to get. And I'm going to go ahead and spray paint these with the hammered Rust-Oleum that I used in my 1/12 scale tutorial. If you guys haven't checked that out, I'll leave a link in the description, as well if you're on mobile devices, I'll leave a card right in the right hand corner for you guys to check that out after this video. So I'm going to go ahead and spray paint these outside, and we'll be right back with the next step. Alright, now that we have the mesh all painted up and spray painted, now we're going to attach it to our base for our building. So I'm going to go ahead and move these aside a little bit. We're going to start doing the front facing part of it. So I'm just going to move those to the side really quick. I'm going to grab our piece. You're going to have to line this up perfectly so there's a little tiny bit of overhang on both sides. It's not going to be by much, but it's going to make a difference. So we're going to go ahead and use hot glue for this. I haven't really tried tacky glue. You can try tacky glue. I'm not 100% sure if that's going to work. I'm just going to use hot glue because it's the easiest and fastest way to attach things to my projects. And basically you just want to attach it in each corner. And you don't want to put too much hot glue because you don't want the hot glue to press right through the little tiny squares of the mesh, because then you're going to notice it in your photos. So you're just going to apply a little dot of hot glue in the corners. I like to start on the top corners first and make sure that's secured. Just add a little bit of hot glue. I want to make sure I just get the corners of this lined up. Do have a little bit of hot glue pouring through this one, but I already fixed it by pressing it down and wiping the excess off. So I just want to make sure that's secure in the corners, make sure it's nice and flat. And this way, as soon as it's lined up that way, it's easier to get the bottom piece nice and hot glued down. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing and apply a tiny bit of hot glue. See if I can get that in camera. Like I said, if you get any excess hot glue, just push down with your thumb. It'll push it through the mesh, and then you just pull away the extra hot glue. But do be careful, it is hot. And I should have it nice and secure. So I'm going to go ahead and apply the rest of the panels off camera, just using the same technique I just showed you on camera right now, just applying hot glue in the very corners and then wiping away the excess if you have excess, making sure there's not hot glue peeking through the grate or through the squares of the grate. And then we'll come back to the next step. Alright, here we are, guys, all finished up, assembled, and painted. I just added a little antenna detail on top. I felt like the top of the building needed something. You don't have to add that, I just added that last second. I might change that up later on. I just have Ant-Man right here. Like I said in the beginning, I made this for my Ant-Man figure as well to add detail in my background. Or you could use this for your Godzilla figures as well. This was a quick and easy project. I hope you guys enjoy this project. And as always, guys, there's always pictures at the end showcasing these and some toy photography that I do. And I hope you guys like this video. And if you did, leave a like, a comment, and hit that sexy subscribe button. And if you're on mobile devices, I'll leave a card right in the... Fuck! And if you're on mobile device, I'll leave a card right in... Fuck.